The rotor blades are screaming above my head, and I can taste blood in my mouth, my own, from biting down too hard when we took that last hit. The instrument panel is lit up like a Christmas tree, every warning light flashing red. Fuel gauge shows 8 minutes, maybe less. The jungle below is a black void punctured by tracers, bright orange lines cutting through the darkness, all of them aimed at me. My co-pilot, Jenkins, is slumped in his seat, his flight suit dark with blood. I'm alone at the controls of a dying UH-1 Huey, and there are still 6 men down there screaming into their radios, begging someone, anyone, to come get them before Charlie overruns their position. I can hear them, every word, every breath, every time they say, please. This is my 23rd run tonight. My bird has been shot to pieces. My crew is bleeding out in the back. Command ordered me to return to base 4 hours ago. I ignored them. I've pulled 22 men out of hell tonight, and I'm not stopping until I get them all. The technique I'm using, the thing that's kept me alive when 3 other pilots died trying the same missions, it's so simple, it's stupid. It goes against every rule in the flight manual. My instructors would have failed me for even suggesting it, but in 3 minutes I'm going to drop into that hot LZ again, and I'm going to do the one thing you're never ever supposed to do with a helicopter in combat. I'm going to turn off my lights, kill my engine at 200 feet, and auto-rotate straight down into a space barely bigger than a parking spot, surrounded by enemy fire on 3 sides. They won't see me coming. They never do. Not until I'm already on the ground. Not until it's too late. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 24 years old. This is November 8th, 1967, and this is the night that will either make me a legend or kill me. Probably both. If my story resonates with you, please hit the like button to bring a little light to this father's heart. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss my upcoming life stories, and tell me in the comments where you're watching this video from and what time it is there right now. It makes me so happy to know what corner of the country or world you're listening from. I wasn't supposed to be a hero. I was supposed to be a crop duster. That's what I trained for back in Nebraska, flying low and slow over cornfields, spreading pesticide, making an honest living. But in 1965, they sent me a letter, and 6 months later, I was in Vietnam, flying a Huey for the 1st Cavalry Division. They taught me the rules. Keep your altitude, never fly at night in contested areas, never make more than 2 rescue attempts in a hot landing zone. Always follow your fuel calculations. Always obey your commander. I learned those rules. I memorized them. And on this night, I'm breaking every single one. The operation started at 1800 hours. A Marine reconnaissance unit, 40 men, walked into an ambush 15 clicks west of Da Nang. What was supposed to be a routine patrol turned into a massacre. By nightfall, 14 were confirmed KIA, 26 were wounded and scattered across a 2-mile radius of jungle, and the NVA had the entire area locked down with machine gun positions and mortar teams. 3 medevac birds tried to get in. 3 went down. I watched the second one explode from 5 miles away, a bright orange flower blooming in the darkness. Command called off all rescue operations. Too dangerous. Wait for dawn. Wait for air support. Wait for the tactical situation to improve. But those men didn't have until dawn, so I made a decision. I was going in, and I wasn't coming back until I got them all. I grew up in Alliance, Nebraska, population 8000, where the biggest excitement was Friday night football and the annual county fair. My father ran a small airport, more of a grass strip really, and I learned to fly before I learned to drive. By 16, I had my private pilot's license. By 18, I could land a Cessna in a crosswind that would make seasoned pilots turn back. I learned to fly by feel, by instinct, reading the wind and the weight of the aircraft through my hands and feet. When my draft notice came in March 1965, I could have requested a deferment. Agricultural work was considered essential. But my older brother, Danny, was already over there with the Marines. He'd been writing letters about the guys he served with, how they needed support, how the helicopter pilots were the only thing standing between the infantry and certain death. So I enlisted, volunteered for flight school. They put me through Fort Walters, then Fort Rucker. Standard training, by-the-book procedures. They taught me how to fly the Huey, the Bell UH-1 Iroquois, the workhorse of Vietnam, a beautiful machine, tough, reliable, but also a flying coffin if you didn't respect it. The instructors drilled safety protocols into us. Never exceed your performance limits. Never push the aircraft beyond its specifications. Always maintain visual references. I graduated third in my class and shipped out to Vietnam in September 1966. For the first year, I flew by the book. Troop insertions, supply runs, standard medevac operations. I was good, competent, safe. But I started noticing something. The pilots who survived the longest, the ones who pulled off the impossible rescues, they weren't always the ones who followed the rules. There was this warrant officer, Chief Warrant Officer Peterson, 43 years old, looked like somebody's grandfather, flew like he was born in that cockpit. I watched him land in places that didn't exist, jungle so thick you couldn't see the ground, but he'd find a gap in the canopy the size of a phone booth and thread his bird through it like he was parking at the grocery store. One day, after a particularly hairy extraction, I asked him how he did it. He looked at me with these tired eyes and said, "Webb, the manual tells you how to survive. Experience tells you how to win. Sometimes you got to choose." 3 weeks later, Peterson took a rocket to the tail rotor on a rescue run. He didn't make it back, but his words stayed with me. I started experimenting. Nothing crazy at first. Just small deviations, landing approaches from unexpected angles, using terrain features the manual said to avoid, flying lower and slower than the recommended speeds, and I discovered something that would save my life 24 times that night. The Huey has this quality. If you know the aircraft intimately, if you can feel every vibration, every shift in weight, every change in the rotor's pitch, you can auto-rotate with the engine off and land with almost no sound, no engine noise to give away your position, just the whisper of wind through the blades. It's incredibly dangerous. One mistake and you're a smoking crater, but in the right hands, at night, it makes you a ghost. I practiced it obsessively. Not in training, they'd have grounded me, but on solo flights out over empty ocean or jungle where no one could see. I'd kill the engine at altitude and bring her down, feeling for that perfect balance point where gravity and momentum and aerodynamics all align. After 6 months, I could drop out of the sky like a falling leaf and kiss the ground softer than a normal powered landing. I never told anyone. It wasn't part of any doctrine. It wasn't approved. But I knew it worked. I just didn't know I'd need it to save 28 lives in one night. The call came in at 18:43 hours. I was on standby at Camp Evans, drinking bad coffee and playing cards with my crew. My co-pilot was Jackson Jenkins, 22, from Georgia, always smiling, always optimistic. My crew chief was Rodriguez, 30, from Texas, could fix anything with duct tape and wire. My door gunner was Thomas, 19, from Philadelphia, barely old enough to shave. When the radio crackled with the emergency frequency, we were in the air in 90 seconds. The coordinates put the ambush site in the A Shau Valley, bad country, thick jungle, enemy everywhere. By the time we arrived on station, the situation was already desperate. 3 burning helicopters marked previous rescue attempts. The Marines were scattered in small groups, pinned down, taking casualties. I could hear them on the radio, calm voices reporting impossible situations. Alpha 1 to any bird. I have 3 wounded, can't move, taking fire from north and east, need immediate extraction. Bravo 2 to dust off, we're down to 4 men, out of ammo in 5 minutes. Where are you? Command frequency was chaos. The air controller was trying to coordinate fighter support, artillery, gunships, but nothing could get close enough. The NVA had moved in heavy weapons. Any helicopter that went low enough to land got shredded. I looked at my crew. Jenkins was pale. Rodriguez was checking his weapons. Thomas was gripping his M60, knuckles white. I keyed the radio and said something I can't quite believe came out of my mouth. Alpha 1, this is Dustoff 7-2. I'm coming in. Command immediately responded. Negative, 7-2, LZ is too hot. Abort mission, return to base. I switched off that frequency. I looked at Jenkins. You don't have to do this. None of you do. If you want out, speak now. Rodriguez chambered around. Let's go get our boys. Thomas nodded. Jenkins took a deep breath and said, "Just get us there and back, Webb, just get us back." I pushed the cyclic forward and dropped toward the jungle. The first landing zone was a clearing barely 30 meters across, surrounded by trees, with enemy positions on 3 sides. Alpha 1, 3 Marines, 2 with gut wounds, 1 with a leg half blown off. Conventional approach would be suicide. They'd have 15 seconds of warning, plenty of time to concentrate fire and turn us into scrap metal. So I did it differently. I climbed to 200 feet, 5 kilometers away, where they couldn't hear us. I briefed my crew on what was about to happen. Rodriguez thought I was insane. Jenkins started praying, but they stayed. I killed the running lights, cut the engine, and dropped into the darkness. The silence was surreal. Just wind, just the whisper of blades auto-rotating, gravity pulling us down. No rotor scream to give us away. I couldn't see the LZ, too dark, too much canopy. I was flying by memory, by feel, counting seconds, calculating descent rate in my head. At 200 feet, I caught the glint of moonlight on the clearing. At 100 feet, I could see the Marines huddled at the edge. At 50 feet, I heard the first shout of surprise from an NVA position. At 10 feet, I slammed the collective up, restarted the engine, and flared hard. We hit the ground with a thump. Go, go, go! Rodriguez and Thomas were already out, dragging the wounded toward the bird. Enemy fire erupted, muzzle flashes from the tree line, tracers zipping past, rounds punching through the thin skin of the fuselage. 10 seconds. The Marines were in. 15 seconds. Rodriguez and Thomas were back aboard. 20 seconds. I pulled pitch, and we lurched into the air, the Huey shuddering under the impact of small arms fire, but flying, climbing, escaping. 3 men safe, 25 to go. Jenkins was bleeding from a shrapnel wound in his shoulder. "I'm good," he said through gritted teeth. "I'm good. Keep going." The second pickup was worse. 2 Marines trapped in a bomb crater, surrounded, NVA closing in. I used the same technique, silent approach, sudden landing, violent extraction. We took more hits. The plexiglass windscreen shattered. A bullet punched through my seat, missing my spine by 2 inches. But we got them out. 5 rescued. 3rd run, 4th run, 5th run. Each time I'd climb high, cut the engine, fall like a stone, restart at the last second, grab whoever was down there and claw back into the sky. The NVA started to realize what was happening, but they couldn't counter it. They'd hear us coming from one direction, set up to ambush, and then I'd appear from nowhere, silent, already on the ground before they could react. My crew worked like machines. Rodriguez and Thomas would have wounded loaded in seconds, suppressing fire with their weapons, dragging men who couldn't walk. Jenkins, bleeding and pale, kept the instruments monitored, called out altitudes, never complained. By the 10th run, we were trailing smoke. Fuel was low. The hydraulics were damaged. The controls felt mushy, unresponsive. Command was screaming at me to return to base. I ignored them. 11, 12, 13. I lost count of the bullet holes. Rodriguez took a round through his calf. He wrapped it with a bandage and kept working. Thomas's door gun jammed. He unjammed it with bloody hands and kept firing. Jenkins passed out from blood loss. He woke up 30 seconds later and went right back to calling out numbers. I was running on adrenaline and something else, something primal. I could hear those men on the radio. I could hear their voices getting weaker. Every second I delayed was a life slipping away. 14, 15, 16. The fuel gauge was in the red. The engine was overheating. The main rotor had stress fractures visible even in the darkness. On the 17th run, I knew we weren't going to make it back. The math was simple. Not enough fuel to return to base, but enough for maybe 10, 11 more landings. I made a decision. I'd keep going until the bird quit, until the fuel ran out, until we crashed. And then we'd wait on the ground with the Marines for dawn and hope someone could get us all out. Jenkins looked at me when I told him. He nodded. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else. 18, 19, 20. The NVA changed tactics. They started firing illumination rounds, flares that lit up the jungle like daylight. My silent approach didn't work in that light. So I adapted. I'd wait for the flare to die, count the seconds of darkness, drop in that brief window of blindness. It worked. Barely. 21, 22. The Marines still down there had reorganized. They were covering each other, laying down suppressing fire during our approaches, making the pickups faster. We were a team now, ground and air, working together, fighting together. 23, 24. My hands were cramping on the controls. My vision was tunneling from exhaustion. But I could see the end. Just a few more men to save. 25. The engine coughed, fuel pressure dropping. I had maybe 3 more runs, maybe 2. 26. The Huey was barely flying. Every control input was a negotiation with gravity. Rodriguez was holding a hydraulic line together with his bare hands, blood mixing with hydraulic fluid, keeping us airborne through sheer force of will. 27. The last 2 Marines were together, pinned in a ravine surrounded on all sides. The worst LZ yet. No way in, no way out. Except there was. One way. I'd have to drop between 2 trees with maybe 3 feet of clearance on each side, land on a slope, and climb out at an angle that would probably tear the transmission apart. The flight manual said it was impossible. Peterson's voice echoed in my head. Sometimes you gotta choose. I dove in. The trees scraped both sides of the fuselage. The skids hit the slope. The Huey tilted at 30 degrees. Rodriguez and Thomas pulled the Marines aboard while I fought the controls, the engine screaming, the whole aircraft shaking like it was going to break apart. We lifted off. Somehow. The transmission was shrieking. The rotor tips were flexing too much. But we were flying. 28 men, all of them, every single one. The fuel gauge hit 0. The engine died. We were at 400 feet, 3 kilometers from a safe landing zone. I auto-rotated one last time, not as a combat tactic, but as the only way to survive. No engine, no power, just gravity and aerodynamics and a lifetime of practice. I found a clearing, barely. I flared at the last second, trading forward speed for lift, bleeding off energy, managing the descent. We hit hard. The landing gear collapsed. The tail boom snapped. The main rotor blades bent and shattered. But we were down. We were alive. All of us. All 28 Marines. My crew. Me. Jenkins woke up and looked around at the wreckage. Did we crash? We landed, I said, and there's a difference. Rodriguez started laughing. Thomas started crying. The Marines, wounded, exhausted, covered in blood, they started cheering. I sat in the pilot's seat of my destroyed helicopter and realized I couldn't move. My hands wouldn't let go of the controls. Someone had to pry my fingers off the cyclic. That night, we waited in that clearing for dawn. Navy corpsmen arrived with the sunrise, along with a Chinook to pull everyone out. They counted heads 3 times because they couldn't believe everyone had made it. When we got back to Camp Evans, there was a crowd waiting. Word had spread. The CO was there. The colonel. Men from other units. They started asking questions. How did I do it? How did I survive? How did I make 28 rescue runs into a hot LZ and come back? I told them about the technique, the silent auto-rotation, the unconventional approaches, the things the manual said not to do. Some of them looked at me like I was crazy. Some looked at me like I was a ghost. The colonel pulled me aside later. Webb, you disobeyed direct orders. You risked your crew. You destroyed a multi-million-dollar aircraft. I should court-martial you. He paused. Instead, I'm recommending you for the Medal of Honor, and I'm grounding you for a week so you can sleep. I slept for 18 hours. When I woke up, there were 28 letters waiting for me, 1 from each Marine I'd pulled out. They all said different things, but they all meant the same thing. Thank you. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for caring enough to risk everything. I kept those letters, I still have them. Rodriguez lost his left foot to infection from that bullet wound. They sent him home. Thomas finished his tour and became a teacher. Died in 2003. Cancer. Jenkins recovered and flew another 200 missions. He was shot down 8 months later, didn't make it. I flew for another 16 months, pulled out 194 more men before my tour ended. But November 8, 1967, that was the night that defined everything. They gave me the Medal of Honor in a ceremony at the White House. President Johnson himself put it around my neck. He asked me what I was thinking during those rescue runs. I told him the truth. I was thinking about my brother Danny, who was killed 2 months before that night. I was thinking about how he died waiting for a medevac that never came. I was thinking that no one should die alone in the jungle while help sits on the ground because it's too dangerous. The war ended. I came home. I went back to Nebraska, to that little airport where I learned to fly. I taught other people, kids, veterans, anyone who wanted to learn. I taught them the manuals, the rules, the safe procedures, but I also taught them something else. I taught them that sometimes when lives are on the line, when everything is impossible, when everyone says it can't be done, sometimes you have to trust yourself more than the rules. Looking back now, 50 years later, I understand what happened that night. It wasn't heroism. It wasn't even bravery, really. It was something simpler and more profound. It was the absolute refusal to accept that those men were already dead. Every voice on that radio was a life that mattered, a family that would be destroyed, a future that would be erased. And I had a helicopter, damaged as it was, and a skill set that gave me a chance, just a chance, to make a difference. So I took it. I made the choice to keep going when stopping was safer, to risk everything when caution was wiser, to break rules that were designed to protect me, because following them would guarantee someone else died. That's not heroism. That's just refusing to live with the alternative. The Marines I saved went home. They had kids, grandkids, careers, lives that wouldn't have existed if I'd followed orders that night. That's 28 men. But it's also 28 families. Hundreds of people alive today because of one night, one beat-up helicopter, and one pilot who was too stubborn to quit. I'm 79 now. My hands shake. My back aches. But those 28 letters are framed on my wall, and sometimes, when I'm alone, I read them again. And I remember the truth that war taught me, the lesson written in darkness and blood, and the impossible mathematics of that night. Sometimes the rules exist to keep you safe, and sometimes the people who need you are already beyond where safe can reach. When that happens, you have a choice. You can do what's reasonable, what's prudent, what's authorized, or you can do what's necessary. I chose necessary. I'd choose it again, every single time. Because in the end, the only mission that really mattered was the one that brought everyone home.